All right, welcome to the latest Learning Bitcoin and Design session. It's been a while since we've done one of these sessions, so excited to get back into it. Um, Today we're just going to do a quick little primer on Nostr, just a super high level of how this technology works and kind of, where opportunities for designers to contribute may be, and also kind of how this relates to the UX design work that we do in Bitcoin. So I have a little fig jam set up here that we'll all be working in, and I think I need to share my screen now so that it actually makes sense what I'm talking about. So let me do that. Oh, that looks like a reasonable window to share. All right. Is everybody able to see my screen or follow along in some capacity? All right. Well, I'm just going to dive in and start, trying to explain this how I understand it, and just jump in with any questions or comments if you did interrupt me along the way. Um, yeah, any questions or comments before I dive in?
Go for it.
All right, so I'll dive in then. Let's do a search for Nostr. Let's go to nostr.com. Oh wow, that's a nice looking website. Um, I don't know who runs this website. I think I might have bumped into them at Costa Rica. I can't remember. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm not really sure what the deal with this website is. There's no like GitHub link on how to edit it, but it's a very nice looking website. I'm very excited to see it. It kind of explains at a high level like what Nostr is, what the protocol is, what the problem it solves, all of that, and like kind of where you can get some Nostr clients. So I might recommend this as a resource if you just kind of want some like concise reading. But I'm actually going to send us into, I'm going to send us into the Nostr just documents. Like, let's just go ahead and just go straight to the source. So if I go to Nostr on GitHub, let's see, let me just go to GitHub and find it. 1 second. Yeah, here we go. I found it. All right, let me copy the link over. Okay, so what is Nostr? So it's notes and other stuff transmitted by relays. Kind of a awkward acronym, but also kind of fun too. Um, like this is basically a description of the protocol right here. Everybody runs a client. It could be a native client, a web client, etc. You publish something, you write a post, you sign it with your key, you send it to multiple relays. Relays are servers hosted by someone else or yourself. You get updates from people. You ask multiple relays if they know something about these people. Anyone can run a relay. A relay is simple and dumb. It does nothing besides accepting posts from people, from some people, and forwarding it to others. Relays don't have to be trusted. Signatures are verified on the client side. It's it's the basic synopsis of the protocol in like one paragraph. Um, so like maybe a place to start would be like visually, like let's look at like how something like Twitter might work, or really any other like company-based social media thing. Let's look at how that works and then compare it how Nostr works. Okay, so I've got my fig jam right here, and like I'm going to like just put down a little circle here, and I'll make this like light blue. I'll say that like this is a Twitter user. This is Alice, the Twitter user. And so she's, running Twitter on her phone, let's say, and then you have over here some, her followers. So this is like a Twitter follower, and this will be Bob and Charlotte and 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 these are all the people that follow Alice on Twitter. And then we're gonna have Twitter itself, and you know, Twitter probably has hundreds of thousands of cloud servers, all around the world to facilitate, tweets and stuff. But they're all controlled by one company. So just for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to represent Twitter here as a single server because it's one entity. So like Alice makes a tweet, and basically the tweet gets sent to a Twitter server, and then all of her followers basically have to ask Twitter, "Hey, can you give me some updates from Alice?" And oops. It's not what I meant to do. There we go. They have to ask, Twitter server for this to happen. So like this kind of presents problems to us at a social level. So one idea is like, what if um, what if Twitter doesn't like Alice and they just decide to kick her off the platform, and then she's completely disconnected from everything. Um, Another thing would be like, what if they like choose to shadow ban her? Um, they she can still send the tweets to Twitter, but they just like they hide her. They don't really elevate for her tweets inside of the search results or whatever Twitter. So she's still kind of connected, but it's like it's degraded. Um, or I guess another way of looking at that, another way of visualizing that might be that Twitter, Alice can still send stuff to Twitter, but she's been disconnected from her followers because they can't see any of her updates, right? Um, and then you have these kind of like, uh, you know, just social debates about like whenever somebody gets kicked off of Twitter, it's like this kind of uh, philosophical argument about like, well, free speech, should they be able to say that? Should they not? Who gets to decide what is okay and what isn't? And it's one of those things we see on like both sides of politics, where like kind of whoever's in power, you're get kind of gets to choose what is okay and what isn't on a platform. And I think we see these things always flip flopping in politics about like, people suddenly care about encryption and privacy when they feel like they're not in power. And then when they're not in power, they don't care about encryption and privacy. So, anyways, that's me going off into opinion land. But back to this. So, like, there's problematic aspects with um, just having one entity that kind of um, facilitates our speech transfer. So then you could take a look at like maybe a model like Mastodon, and I want to use purple for Nostr, so maybe I'll use like green for Mastodon, right? So we could have like um, a Mastodon user, and then what we're going to do is we're going to make a Mastodon instance, and this will be the Bitcoin devs Mastodon server, and then Alice can send her notes to the Bitcoin devs Mastodon server, and then she might have followers. And Bob's Mastodon client is able to ask Mastodon for updates, and maybe this is Charlotte, but then things start to get problematic because Mastodon allows you to basically run your own server, and you're like, hey, this is my Mastodon instance for my club. And like, let's take Dan over here. So like maybe Dan is on a different Mastodon server. Maybe he's on the I don't know, the arts and crafts Mastodon server. And this means that if Dan wants to follow what Alice is posting, he can't because he's on a different Mastodon server. And you can kind of like run into this problem a lot. Like it might be that he's got other friends, on this Mastodon server, but there can be many Mastodon servers. So it could be like the cooking club Mastodon server. I'm gonna just change these names here. Okay. And so these are problems because they're all kind of disconnected. So like the Mastodon servers start to become like their own little miniature social networks. And sometimes you can get stuff where there's like it's federated in nature, so you can set it up so that Mastodon servers can like kind of talk to each other. So like these two Mastodon servers could basically build a bridge between each other. And so then Fritz could see stuff posted to the arts and crafts server, and Elsie could see stuff posted to like the cooking club server. Um, that's nice. That's fine. But it doesn't always work that way. Not all Mastodon instances are connected. So you ended up with this kind of fragmented kind of thing. And also a similar kind of thing where like it doesn't really solve it too much because the person who runs this server can basically behave like Twitter does. So they can just, shadow ban or boot somebody or something like that. So instead of like one giant, empire, you kind of end up with these like multiple like smaller fiefdoms. And each fiefdom kind of has its own like ruler who gets to make the rules there. So that might be an improvement, but you could argue that like the user experience of this like starts to get a little bit complicated. Um, so then like let's like visualize what like Nostr does, and we'll use the purple circles for that. Okay, so I'm going to make one down here, and this will be our Alice, which is Nostr user, and then we have here, which is a Nostr relay, and I'll just give this one a name. I'll say that this is like the Damus Nostr relay. Um, and she broadcasts her note to this relay, and then similar before, we have her followers. And you start to think like, well, hold on, let me get rid of this thing. And looks a little nicer if they both are on the other side of the circle, I think. Like, okay, well, this looks like a little similar to Twitter, right? But there's a difference that in Nostr, you have multiple relays. And so, like, what we can do is we can have, move it over here, give us a little bit more room to move around here. You could have this, ah, delete, delete. There we go. We could have this other relay over here, and maybe this is like the Eden Land Nostr relay. And Alice doesn't have to just share her notes with this one. Alice can also send her notes to this one. She could actually send it to as many relays as she wants to. There's another one I use called like Nostr Wine. I don't know. I guess they like wine or something. She could send her notes to that one too. And and so the thing about this is then she could have followers that like follow her as long as there's a shared relay between all of the followers, they can get the notes. So this could be um, Charlie over here, and then um, maybe Dan uses this one here. So as long as basically as long as there's like shared relays between her followers, they can see each other's notes. And this starts to look like a complicated, UX, just in terms of how this functions at the protocol level. But like, I mean, just from a developer perspective, it's very, very simple because, sometimes when people try to like decentralize social media, they like try to integrate a blockchain and all that. Well, we don't need a blockchain. That's one thing that Nostr shows us. And another thing is that like the relays here, like these servers in Mastodon, like are kind of like they require management from the people like running them. But these Nostr relays are like they're dumb. Like it basically says that in the protocol docs. The Nostr relays are dumb. The clients are smart, but the relays are dumb. All they do is you send it a note, and if you ask it for a note, it'll give you a note. Simple as that. Um, so this makes up some interesting like censorship resistant properties. Like if I like let's say this particular Nostr relay decides that they don't like Alice, then they can, they can basically cut her off, right? But that's okay because, she still has these other relays here. That's what kind of creates the censorship resistant properties is that Alice can just keep using as many relays as she wants to. Um, and, uh, as long as she doesn't get censored by every relay in the world, then it's like censorship resistant. Um, so it's a different architecture under the hood, and it's like simple. It's kind of like why didn't anyone think of this before? But it's surprisingly resilient. Um, so yeah, that might be like now that we've kind of like visualized like the difference between some of these different protocols, that might be a opportunity to see if anybody has any questions or wants to make any comments on this. Cool. No questions thus far?
Yeah, those
Okay.
questions. Uh, so comparing like Mastodon with the Twitter example you give, the Twitter example, like there's a central focus of everything everybody posts. You have a chance to like get what everybody posts. Here on Nostr, uh, how do you get to see like every relay that's been connected?
Yeah, I'll show
Like,
you. So I can.
doesn't that create like too much like stress? People having to like try to like connect to release.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, like, does it provide, how do you know about all the relays and does it provide stress to the user? It's certainly a problem in Nostr right now. I mean, like, I'll go ahead and give an example that, like, a lot of times if you go to, like, this is Snort, for instance. So, this is um, a Nostr client for the web. And like, here's some of my relays. I probably need to trim the fat on these, honestly. I'm a little embarrassed to show this list. But anyway, a lot of times when you start with Nostr for the first time, like if you sign up with Snort, it'll give you a handful of relays to start with. So it'll give you like 3 or 4 recommended relays. So a lot of times they'll give you some to start with. Um, in terms of adding more relays, it's very chaotic right now. A lot of times people are learning about relays on Nostr. They're sharing relays with people and they're saying, "Oh, I like this relay. Everybody join this relay." There are, I think, some directory websites you can go to that have lists of many relays. Um, but it's kind of a debate in Nostr about what is the best way to think about relays from UX. So, like, um, I think like one approach to relays might be like hide relays from the user. And this would be like a situation where like the client chooses relays on behalf of the user, or like tries to automate selecting good relays. Maybe the user can override these in the settings if they want to, but this kind of design philosophy is that you try to make the relays kind of this under the hood hidden thing, and you just want it to work. You just want it to work for the user. That's one philosophy. Another kind of philosophy is to show the relays in the UI, make them important. So I think there was a bounty up for a good UX design for a Nostr client that keeps the relays in the forefront. Um, and so you might think about it like maybe a relay has like a specific topic to it, and um, it's kind of like a feed that would give you information about a certain topic, and or maybe a certain friend group that you're with likes to congregate on a certain relay. Then you might be much more conscious. You might, as a user, consciously select that relay. So I don't know. I think it's up for debate. It's up to us designers to kind of figure out how to balance these different philosophies, and deliver a good experience. But it's definitely kind of a running challenge. But another thing, I guess I have a lot of thoughts and opinions on this. Is I think we have to think about Nostr and social media differently than Twitter. So one thing about Twitter is that it's this idea of this like global feed, and it's like I can go to like the Twitter, like I can like see everything that's happening to everybody on Earth, but we really don't know how that algorithm surfaces that information to us. So, like, one part of Nostr is that maybe we have to become more comfortable with the idea that maybe we don't want to be exposed to every single human being on the planet. Maybe we want to more consciously seek out and to follow people that we're interested in, and seek out content that we want rather than having content that maybe we don't want kind of algorithmically, you know, uh, hoisted upon us. Um, so it's definitely an ongoing challenge in Nostr.
Yeah. Hey, Steven, could you add give edit access real quick to
Oh yeah,
the?
sorry. Let me just give it to everybody.
Yeah, yeah
The
there's
second
some.
example.
Sorry, if I could, please go ahead. Just wanted to add this example here from
Go on, go
habla.us.
on. I don't know. You're not. You're still talking.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was just going to say there are also paid relays. Some of them that require you to pay some number of sats for it, so they make themselves a little bit exclusive. That can be because it provides a very quick that it's just very quick, or because you want to have a separate community from other people. So that's another aspect of relays. You can also, if you have an Umbrel, you can run your own relay very easily on it, and you can use it as a backup. So even if the whole world censors you, you still have a backup of all your posts. So there can also be service-specific relays, like a relay that's just for direct messaging or so. So they play a really diverse type of roles. And like Stephen said, I think that's still a little bit TBD on how it will pan out.
So, oh, did you have another question, Precious?
I was saying,
And yeah, one more thing. The clients also differentiate between relays you read from and relays you write from. So write to. So when you create a post, where it all gets sent to, and that could be the same one at all times. So other people always know where to find your posts. And that's different than relays you read to. Let's say I follow 100 different people and they're spread all over the place, all across different relays. So a client kind of separates these two lists as well. But yeah,
so please,
it's a
Christoph, could
complex
you explain that
optimization.
again? Like that's kind of some confusing.
I'm sorry.
The read and write. Could you explain the read and write again?
I'm sorry. Which part?
Read and write.
The read and write. You talked
Read and write.
about like
Yeah,
release kind of like separate what the message you sent
yeah.
and the other
Cor-
part.
correct. So when you post something, you probably always want to send it to the same relays. Let's say you have 5 relays, and everything you post, you send it to those, right? Because you want to have that consistency, so other people, when they want to follow you, they always know where to find your posts, right? And the same thing applies on your side. Let's say you follow 100 different people and they're spread all over the world. They post to all kinds of different relays. So you kind of keep track of a list of relays that you constantly check. Like I might know that Precious is on the Damus relay and Stephen always posts to the wine relay. So my client always makes sure to check those first to see if there's anything new from you, but where I post to might then be a different place, and that creates this really crazy, weird web of relay stuff that everyone's trying to figure out right now. Does that make sense?
Maybe a bit of
So it's
kind
almost
like
like I always try to use metaphors. It's almost like if you imagine the street of houses and house number 14 always writes letters to house number 30 and house number 2. And the postman is the relay. So he will always go and kind of come to my house because he knows I'm always sending letters to house number, let me say again, number 30 and number 14. So he'll come by, he'll pick it up, he'll take the letter, he'll send it over. At the same time, I'm also sending letters to people in other streets. So there's another postman there, and he's another relay, and then he goes, and he also knows that I always send letters to them, so he comes and picks them up. So would the postman carrying the letters be a kind of a metaphor for the relay, and the
Um,
for the relay, and then the message itself would be the letter?
Yeah, I don't
I,
know if that makes it
mm,
easier for me.
No.
I don't like the postman metaphor because the whole concept is that like there's multiple relays. So I don't like the metaphor of a single postman because there could be many. If you want to
Okay.
think of a relay as a postman, there's many of them. Let me just like put it out visually here. Like I don't know exactly the best way to metaphorize
um
this, but let's say Alice posts stuff to she posts an update to Nostr every day. So when she takes the note and sends it, she sends it to these relays right here, 1, 2, and 3. So I have the arrow going to these relays. That's where she sends her notes to. Uh, But the friends, the people that she likes to follow, the people that she wants to get notes from, they might be connected to these relays over here. So she gets notes from these relays. That's why the arrows are pointing here. So she sends her notes to these ones, but she gets her friends' notes from these ones over here. That's why the arrow is going into it like that.
Mm, I see now why the postman one metaphor doesn't work. Okay.
Stephen, what do you think of the other aspect about how on Twitter provides the client, and that's the only client you can use.
Mm-hmm.
And with, I don't know how it is with Mastodon, but with Nostr, anyone can create their own client, and users can pick what they want, and the relays really don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And the other aspect about Nostr, the different types of things that can be done on Nostr, from different types of notes, like direct messages, short posts or notes, I guess, blog posts, these different things. Is that something
Yeah.
you were thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we should talk about that next. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to note, like, I liken Nostr seems to behave a little bit more like email in that if you think about email, I can use Proton Mail, you can use Gmail, somebody else can use uh, Outlook online or whatever, but we can all still send each other messages because we're all using the email protocol. Um, it's a very similar idea with Nostr. It's all the Nostr protocol, and so that opens up the door for anyone to use a different client. So a lot of people with iPhones like to use Damus. I also use Snort.social when I'm here at a desktop computer. People on Android, a lot of those folks like Amethyst. There's the Arc one. So there's all these variety of different clients, but they all talk to each other, which is kind of interesting because it opens up the door for people to be able to innovate on these clients. You know, uh, you again, I mean, it's you could think about it in terms of I just don't like the user interface for this client, so I'm going to build one with the user interface I find more pleasing. Or you could start to think about things at a deeper level, like what if I build a client that has an algorithm that's designed to show me the content in a way that I like? It's designed to surface content from the people that I find most important, or however that might be. So just at the client level, it opens up the doors for a lot of innovation there. Um, and then in terms of the other stuff, like this might be a good way, segue into like looking at NIPS. This is a very common thing you see. So this was where I started off this conversation here at the basic description of the protocol. It's at Nostr protocol/Nostr. So if I go back one, I can go here to NIPS, which stands for Nostr Improvement Possibilities or Implementation Possibilities. Sorry. I always get my words tripped up because we have BIPs and Bitcoin improvement proposals. These are Nostr implementation possibilities. And all these documents they're just basically someone wrote a draft for what if we had Nostr do X, Y, or Z. And, people build some interesting stuff here. So, like, probably one of the most popular, famous ones right now is NIP57, Lightning Zaps. Um, Most people don't call it by the NIP, they just call it by Zaps. But this is that idea where if you see content that somebody likes on Nostr, and if they've hooked up some kind of Lightning wallet to their Nostr profile, um, you can basically tip them in over the Lightning network, and then it'll show up on Nostr that you tipped them. So it's like I know this probably looks like some technical gobbledygook if you're not familiar with development, but I'll go ahead and say I just want to stress that this is a very simple document. Like, uh, it's complicated if you don't understand like some of this code and stuff. But in terms of like developer spec documents, this one is actually pretty short. Like, look at this one over here, NIP5, another famous one. This is what allows you to kind of have something that looks a little bit like an email address that kind of maps to your Nostr public key. Um, Very short document. It's not really that long in terms of how protocol specs go. Another one that is in here is like Christoph mentioned, someone added a NIP for like chats. So here's long form content. I think it's the blog one. What else do we have?
Like
Uh,
this.
Public chat, there we go, NIP 28. NIP 26, I want to learn more about that one. Badges, now people are making badges on Nostr, so you can like make a badge for your friend and then they can display it in their profile. Um, all kinds of interesting stuff people are building here. I mean, it's wild how quickly we've seen the growth happen with this protocol.
Yeah, and I think one of the why it grows so fast is, for example, with badges. I posted that link there. It was Carnage, who's also in Bitcoin design. He created the design, and then there's a developer, Verberica, who coded it up. And it's just two people, and all they focus on is badges. They just take this one NIP definition and just make a small application to do this one thing really well. But if you create a badge there, then it shows up in every other client that exists. Right? It can show up in your Damus profile, in your Snort profile, and everywhere else. So it allows a lot of people to work on these things in a completely separately.
I think I'll check out my profile real quick. I think I got some badges. I don't know if Snort shows them yet. Oh man, maybe it was Damus I was looking. I can't remember.
I think they show right in the profile. Give me a second.
Grown men start trying to show off their Nostr badges to the world. Where did I see it? I know I was looking in one Nostr client I was looking at, and I saw my badges display, and I can't remember which one it was. Ah, well, I'll figure it out later.
So all of those different implementations that you shared, are those implementations that are these just ideas, or have they actually been used and tested out in the market, or are they more ideas?
Well, I think most of these are probably have actually been implemented.
Wow.
I'll go and say though that that doesn't necessarily mean that they're being widely used. Like for
Yeah.
example, this proof of work NIP here is like um, no one's. I don't think anyone's using this. It's an interesting idea, but no one's using it. To mine, I mean, maybe somebody is, but it's not like a widespread thing. So that's one thing that we can see with these NIPs is that like there's going to be a lot of these things, and just because they exist doesn't mean that everyone's
Mhm.
going to be using them.
And so I was working on this, and I was investigating this stuff, and I looked at it in December, and then again in February, and just in a month there were like 3, 4, 5 new NIPs, and various other ones were tweaked. So this is really, really, I don't know if you want to call it brand new or cutting edge or whatnot, and still shifting quite a bit.
Thanks for putting this in the document, Precious. John's got a badge for special recognition for invention of the term used.
He requested that to be celebrated for that, so I had to do him the favor.
Oh my god. I just
What is
love it.
it?
Amazing. Um, so I think, we have about like 15 minutes here before I go jet, but
Who
like
gives these
I
badges? Like who awards these badges?
Anyone can. You can go to badges.page, create your own badge, and award it to anyone you want, and then they can accept it if they want to.
Oh, okay.
I think if my understanding of badges is correct, it's more like, the note exists, it's been broadcast to the relays. It's like a matter of if they want to display it on their profile or not. Is that right?
So there are technically three nodes. One is the node definition. It's like, here is a badge, this is the image, this is the title. Then there is the badge award, which says this badge that's defined over here should be given. I want to give this to this person, to this profile. And then the third type of node is the acceptance that says this badge that's defined over here was awarded to me and I'm accepting it. And then it will
Got
show
it.
up.
Got it.
So it's made by Carnage, and so Carnage was the designer, and Verberica was the developer. So it's pretty much like he created the design and he gave that design idea to him, and then he just coded it up, and then Which code is this being written in?
Probably JavaScript.
Okay.
Oh, that's what it is. And maybe that I didn't accept it. Maybe that's what it. Oh man, people are sending me badges. I had no idea. Look at all these badges. Yes, that's the one I want. I want the Costa Rica badge. Oh, there's my no good badge. Sweet. Dope. This is amazing. Thanks. I guess I like wasn't as good at badges as I thought. All right, sweet. Oh, I am a relay operator. What the fuck? Okay, I don't want to just like accept badges from randos. I want to like figure out who this is. Okay, cool. So now, okay, it still doesn't show up as snort, but that's it. Oh yeah, yeah, there it is. Ah, badass. Look at my badges. Okay, sorry. Anyways, um, hey, I just want to like take this for a second though and like talk a little bit about some other stuff. Um, I think I want to like tie this back into Bitcoin real quick since it's the Bitcoin design community and just like how this kind of relates. I mean, one thing that's just been incredibly powerful is that there's people joining Nostr and they're learning about Bitcoin through Nostr. So like the Zaps um, spec has been incredible just in that it's created this exciting thing. I mean, I think we'll have to see like long term if value for value is this like really scalable philosophy or not. But right now it's working very well. People are joining Nostr, they're posting funny memes, inspirational quotes, whatever. People are zapping them tiny amounts of sats. So it's like a good thing for content creators, and it's people are being onboarded to Lightning because of that. So that's really cool. Another kind of thing that is interesting from a Bitcoin perspective is like single sign-on and stuff like that. So like, a lot of times you visit websites and you see things like log in with Facebook, log in with Google, log in with whatever, right? And so those single sign-ons are a very, very common design pattern we see these days. Because it makes sense. It's like you don't want to have to remember a lot of different passwords, and um, people can sometimes be intimidated by password managers. So this idea that like, okay, I'm just going to have um, I'm just going to have my Gmail address. It's going to have a really really complicated password, and then I'm going to use my Google account to log into other websites. That's a compelling idea to a lot of people. Problem is, it creates this kind of censorship problem of what if Google cuts you off or something like that, or what if Google goes down one day and you suddenly can't authenticate with all your favorite services. So what we're starting to see with stuff like this, if you noticed with the badges thing, all I had to do to log in was I just used my Albi browser extension to log in, and I just signed. I just made a Nostr signature, and then that like authenticates me. So can we start using Nostr as a single sign-on mechanism that's not controlled by a single trusted entity? That's really powerful. But then it creates this other interesting idea for me. Okay, let's go to the Bitcoin. No, problem is these German Bitcoiners made a bitcoin.de website, and now every time I want to like autocomplete Bitcoin design, it takes me to bitcoin.de.
Same thing happens to me.
First world problems. Let's go look at this design right here. Like John's proposed this idea a while back, and then Christoph kind of fleshed out and turned it into this page in the guide here. So what if you have a contacts list for your Bitcoin wallet? And its idea is you're not having Bitcoin addresses, you're not having like Lightning invoices or any of that complicated stuff. Like that stuff is happening, it's happening under the hood. You're just assigning it to a contact. So we're making contact here, and then like maybe we're associating something to that contact. Um, okay, this is cool. Now, I think we're starting to see like if you look at like iOS and Android and stuff like that, like getting the kind of integration that we want, like and like right in the operating system is always going to be like really hard. Um, and like another kind of like design pattern with like would be really cool is if you could like put some kind of Bitcoin payment identifier like in the iOS context list. Probably not happening anytime soon. Another kind of contacts design pattern we see is like stuff like Cash App and Venmo, where you can kind of search for your friends and you can find them and then pay them directly. What I'm trying to do here is I'm making the argument that with Nostr, we can build a really powerful kind of contacts list here, um, that can do a lot of the kind of things that we would expect from like Apple Contacts and Cash App and Venmo. Um, People can publish payment identifiers. Right now, we're using Lightning address. I think in the future it'll be Bolt 12 offers and stuff like that. But the point is we can publish payment identifiers in our Nostr profiles, and then finding and paying somebody. It doesn't even have to be a Zap, but just being able to find somebody and how to pay them is just a matter of performing a search. Your Nostr follows can be kind of like your Nostr contact list in a way. So like, yeah, I don't really know that I'll stop my rambling there, but I just think that the idea of Nostr single sign-on and being able to publish payment identifiers in your Nostr profiles totally makes this very much easier and much more achievable.
Yeah, and one extra thing is that the Nostr keys can also be derived from a mnemonic seed, exactly like Bitcoin keys. It's the same mechanism, pretty much. So we might even same type of cloud backup and manual backup techniques might apply.
Really? Uh, like you mean Nostra could be like people could log in with like 12 word seed phrase the same way with Bitcoin.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, wow.
You can also use that to create Nostr keys. It's the same technique, and I think
Wait,
that's in there's a nip that defines that, or some like a little spec somewhere.
Yeah, I think
is there
Nostr
a place I can
uses.
do that? No, that seems better than like just the long characters of the private key.
I didn't understand that.
I said, is there a place to like convert the private key to like seed phrase?
Oh, to convert the private key to what?
To a seed phrase. I don't think you can go
Uh,
backwards from it.
yeah, and it's the same in Bitcoin. The cryptographic operations are always one way. So if you have a seed phrase, you can convert the seed phrase into a private key, and then you can take the private key and you can derive a public key from that, and then from the public key you can make like an address. But you can never like work backwards. You can only work forwards cryptographically.
Oh, okay. But like currently now, are they let's say like clients that signs up and then you sign up with a seed phrase, or are they like place to generate let's say Nostra uh username that gives you seed phrase? That seems like a better way to like onboard people to Nostra than rather than with the long private key.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think all of us here are still very early to Nostr. And I think for people that already have Nostr accounts, such as many of us here, we, a lot of us had to generate a Nostr key from an application that did not give us a seed phrase. So that's a little bit unfortunate because I don't think there is any way we can get a seed phrase, but it would probably be good moving forward if um, it would be good moving forward for Nostr clients if they would make the seed phrase from the start and actually give the user the option to have that.
I'm just going to shill my hackathon project. It does include that, and I also put a screenshot of that screen in the fake jam.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay. Nostra does that. Nostra.me does that.
Very nice
Good stuff.
looking.
Oh, that is cool.
Oh,
So when I first signed up for Nostr, I remember that was on the Bitcoin design call you guys advised me to get my keys from not from a client, but get them outside of one of the social clients. So I went over to get Albi.
Yep.
So would there also be a solution for getting a non-related, what's the word I'm looking for? Is it called NCER, if I remember correctly, within a client, or is that totally impossible?
Are you talking about NSEC and
Yeah,
SEC?
there we go. Yeah, there we go.
That's your private key. So that's like that's the private key. That's like your that's how you log into Nostr basically. So you basically have like the INSEC. A lot of times people call it that, and it's like usually a number that's like INSEC 1 2 3 4 da 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 da. That's that. That's your that's the basically the private key that logs you in the Nostr, and then
Yeah.
you have your INPub, which is usually looks pretty similar. But it'll be like INPub da 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 da. So yeah, public key. This is how people find you on Nostr. Like this is how people identify you.
And there's a third version of it, which is called an N profile, which includes your NPub and a relay. So that way, if you give that to someone, they know your profile, your public key, and also where to find information about you. That's another good one to share. But there are a lot of these things now.
Yeah, so the idea is when you're using something like Albi, you're using Albi to protect this thing right here. You never want to share this with anybody,
Yeah.
but you do want to share this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I see people with that all over their Twitter profiles.
Yeah, and one day, I mean, it'll get to the point. Then you have what you call the NIP5. It's basically just looks like an email address. So here's my NIP5, and it basically like does a lookup on your pub key. Kind of like email address, lightning address, kind of like a Nostr address. The problem with it is that the lookup, a lot of clients, the lookup doesn't always, function in a very performant manner. Sometimes it can be a little bit slow and laggy. It just doesn't always work out. So, but hopefully that'll improve over time with clients. Because yeah, I mean that's a little bit easier if you can just share like something that looks like an email address with somebody, and then I think an awesome future would be where you never have to worry about these things ever again.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be gross sometimes when you're like scrolling through an Nostr and somebody will make a post and like tag all their friends, and like when they're tagging their friends, it like shows up as like at Bob, at Joe. But like if I don't follow those people and my Nostr client hasn't like looked up those names yet, it'll just show up as their NPubs. So like the whole note will just be filled with like this garbage right here. It's a total mess. Yes,
Yeah,
Precious. I mean, it could be an email address, and for me, it actually is an email address. Um, it doesn't work like that for everybody because a lot of people are, getting a free NIP5 or like they're getting a NIP5 through somebody else's service. Um, but I'm a little more technical, so I run my own website and also get my email through this domain and also have my own Nostr.json. So for me, it's an email address and it's a NIP5 address. So I think that'd be an amazing thing, if people start building services that it's like, this is an email address and it's also a Nostr address, and your Nostr address has static Bitcoin payment identifiers published in your profile. It'd be a beautiful world. All right. It is almost on the hour here. I think I got a jet soon. Any final questions, comments before I bail?
I mean, forward looking, it'll be very interesting to see what happens here. There's so much experimentation happening. It's not really clear exactly how everything will turn out. I think there's a lot of unbuilt stuff. Like I've never used DMs on Nostr, for example. You can build chat rooms, you can build Twitter-like things, you can build communities. Carnage, is considering, instead of going from Slack to Discord in the design community, going to Nostr. So it seems like there's just this raw material lying around right now that people are trying to figure out what all they can do with. In the hackathon, also someone built a game where the communication happens on Nostr. So it's just very, very interesting. What do you think? Do you see anything specific happen in the next few months, Stephen, or things you would like to see?
Well, I mean, we're excited with the hackathon project we did here in Atlanta about trying to do meetup event scheduling and stuff on Nostr. So that's one thing we're excited about. Have to continue the discussion with the Nostr community about the best way to implement that. That could be really nice too if you could schedule in-person events through Nostr. But my primary jam right now is getting the static Bitcoin payment identifiers in Nostr profiles. I'm super excited about that kind of stuff. It's boring, my interests are always a little more boring and subdued.
And is that Bolt 12, or is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, nice. And so you're looking into creating a new NIP for that, or how do you
I
think
don't
that
know.
will work?
Still exploring that, what the best way to do that would be.
Awesome.
But that could certainly be a possibility. Well, cool. This has been real, everybody. I got a jet now, but I hope everybody learned, some basics about Nostr here and all that. Hope that helps out.
For sure. Thank you, Stephen.
All right, cool. Have a good day. Catch you later, everybody.
Thanks a ton, Stephen.
Bye.